Good evening, I'm Sarah Farsclub with the main news-making headlines around the world. His Highness the Emir will patronize and attend the 13th honoring ceremony of the Informatics Award of His Highness the Chief of the National Guard, Sheikh Salim Al-Ali Al-Sabah. The National Assembly grants citizens the right to refute to the Constitutional Court during its ordinary session. Iraq's Prime Minister asks Parliament to declare a state of emergency after militants take control of the country's second city of Mosul. And Pakistan's busiest airport in the city of Karachi comes under a new attack 2 days after a similar incident kills 36 people. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning at Bayan Palace the newly elected chairman of Kuwait Red Crescent Society, Dr. Hilal Musa'id Al-Sayer, and board members on the occasion of forming a new board of directors for the society. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of condolences to His Majesty Emperor Akihito of the Empire of Japan on the passing away of His Imperial Highness Prince Katsura. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of condolences to His Majesty Emperor Akihito of the Empire of Japan on the passing away of His Imperial Highness Prince Katsura. His Highness Sheikh Jabir Al-Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable of condolences. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Portugal, Aníbal António Cavaco Silva, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Portugal, Aníbal António Cavaco Silva, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jabir Al-Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable of congratulations. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah will patronize and attend the 13th honoring ceremony of the Informatics Award of His Highness Sheikh Salim Al-Ali Al-Sabah, Chief of the National Guard. The ceremony will be held tomorrow, Wednesday, the 11th of June 2014 at 10:30 a.m. at Bayan Palace. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning at Bayan Palace the newly elected chairman of Kuwait Red Crescent Society, or KRCS, Dr. Hilal Musa'id Al-Sayer, and board members on the occasion of the society forming a new board of directors. His Highness the Crown Prince praised the efforts exerted by KRCS to help many distressed Arab and Muslim countries through hosting and setting up humanitarian projects and activities. His Highness the Crown Prince then recalled the past achievements and endeavors of the Society's previous chairman, the late Barjas Hamoud Al-Barjas, that brought humanitarian relief aid to people who had fallen into unfortunate times. Meanwhile, KRCS board's members presented to His Highness the Crown Prince an encyclopedia titled For Humanity, Generosity and Giving, which included all of the Society's humanitarian and developmental projects. The meeting was attended by the Undersecretary of His Highness the Crown Prince's Diwan for Media Affairs, Sheikh Mubarak Al-Hamoud Al-Salman Al-Sabah, and Undersecretary of His Highness the Crown Prince's Diwan for Protocol and Ceremony Affairs, Sheikh Mubarak Sabah Al-Salim Al-Hamoud Al-Sabah. The National Assembly held its ordinary session under the chairmanship of Parliament Speaker Marzouk Ali Al-Ghanim. MPs approved 3 draft laws during the session, including the establishment of a department in the Court of First Instance for considering administrative disputes in its second deliberation. Reporter Badri Al-Saleh has more on the session in this report.
During its ordinary session, the National Assembly approved lifting immunity of MP Nabil Al-Fadl in relation to a press misdemeanor case, but abstained from taking an identical step against fellow legislator Hamdan Al-Azmi in Faroniya's felony case. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mubarak Al-Sabah affirmed the government's keenness on protecting state personnel and facing any bid to target them. The National Assembly then referred to the government a draft proposal that lawmakers approved, allowing the Kuwaiti head of household to take a housing loan from the government-owned Kuwait Credit Bank (KCB), even if he had been granted such a loan once before, although current laws allow citizens to obtain this type of loan only once.
Today's session was longer than usual, as it was filled with many achievements. We approved 3 important laws in their second deliberation, such as the establishment of the General Authority for Road and Land Transport, which aims to solve the traffic issue in the country that was distributed into 4 sectors and is now under one umbrella, as the case in other developed countries. We also approved the law regarding administrative disputes and housing care. Moreover, I believe the outcome of this session also resulted in a landmark decree that was approved in its first deliberation, which grants Kuwaiti citizens the right to refute to the Constitutional Court. This is a national dream and a constitutional demand since 1973.
On the other hand, the Minister of State for Housing Affairs, Yusuf Abel, noted the government's rejection of the draft proposal, citing its inequity among borrowers, saying his ministry was dealing with over 110,000 housing applications at this time, which merited attention, and promised that priority went to those who have never had the opportunity to borrow yet from KCB for their first ever home to live in with their families, and who are currently suffering the burden of paying high apartment rents. Moreover, MPs discussed some recommendations regarding the preservation of historical sites and called on the National Council for Culture, Arts and Letters to specify these historical locations and rebuild demolished ones, namely the Arms Market. The recommendations emphasize the necessity to maintain the municipality public park, chronicling damage caused by the Iraqi occupation, rebuilding the National and Science Museums, conserving ancient palaces, names of historical locations, encouraging formative arts that document the national heritage and history, as well as supporting media that serve these purposes. Finally, the Minister of Oil and Minister of State for National Assembly Affairs, Dr. Ali Al-Omer, affirmed during the session the government's keenness on food security, granting land plots to citizens for housing purposes and supporting the Public Authority for Agriculture and Fisheries, adding that he received a report on the distribution of agricultural plots that he will revise and forward to the Parliament within a month. From the National Assembly building, this is Badriya Al-Saleh reporting for the English News.
The 33rd session of the Undersecretaries of the Ministries of Environmental Affairs in the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, member states kicked off at Kuwait Sheraton Hotel with large attendance. The meeting is looking into establishing environmental programs and projects that would better protect the environment. Kuwait presented a proposal to the conferees to set up a unified electronic gate for Gulf environmental affairs that would cost 426,000 Kuwaiti dinars, and Kuwait has promised to pay 72% of the total cost. Here is more on the conference in this report by Salim Al-Kandiri.
Kuwait hosted the 33rd session of the Undersecretaries of Environment Affairs Ministries in Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC member states. The conference aimed to move forward with practical actions in tackling better care of the environment. Here's what Director General of Kuwait's Environment Public Authority, EPA, Rajal Bsairi, said at the opening speech of the meeting.
The meeting tackles a number of ambitious environment programs and projects such as the establishment of a GCC Environment Observatory and special network for studying land deterioration and several other issues. The conferees will also discuss proposals for outlining a framework agreement for joint GCC action to protect the environment and a proposal to fund a GCC environment electronic gate similar to that of Kuwait. The GCC environment agencies have built strategic partnerships and are involved in several cooperation programs with relevant regional and international organizations.
Meanwhile, on his part, the GCC Assistant Secretary General for Environment and Human Affairs, Abdullah Hashim, shed light on a number of achievements of the GCC environment agencies in the past years. Here's what he added to the session.
The GCC environment agencies have managed to promote the message of environment protection across the different sections of society. The Ministerial Council had allocated in its 138th session $3.9 million to develop joint GCC action to safeguard the environment. Meanwhile, the coordination among GCC environment agencies is on the highest level. One of the indicators of the development achieved in this domain was the progress made by Kuwait in the past years. Noting that Kuwait has moved from the 128th place to 44th on the list of the country's work to protect environment.
This conference was a follow-up on last year's GCC ministerial meetings held in Bahrain, which was a follow-up on establishing special teams and committees that will tackle all GCC environmental issues. From the Sheraton Hotel, this is Salman Kandiri reporting for the English News.
Over to neighboring Iraq, Iraqi police and army forces abandoned their posts in the northern city of Mosul today after militants overran the provincial government headquarters and other key buildings. Overnight, hundreds of men armed with rocket-propelled grenades, sniper rifles and machine guns seized the provincial government's headquarters and destroyed several police stations before moving towards a top security prison and military airport. Iraq's Speaker of Parliament Osama al-Najafi said the city that ranks as the capital of northern Iraq is now entirely under insurgent control. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki has asked Parliament to declare a state of emergency after the incident. The rebels are believed to be affiliated with the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, an al-Qaeda splinter group that is behind the bulk of the bloody attacks in the country. After the Palestinian Unity Government was sworn in last week, ending a 7-year feud between rivals, the Fatah and Hamas movements and other Palestinians were still uncertain about its readiness for elections within 6 months. Fatma Abdul Karim from Ramallah has the details in this report.
The possibilities of holding general elections during the tenure of this newly appointed unity government in the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza are becoming a main concern among Palestinians. So what are the chances of holding presidential and legislative elections now? Observers say the chances that elections are held in those 6 months are very low, given a number of tasks with magnitude and a heavy burden, including the question of holding elections in East Jerusalem, reunification of security apparatuses in Gaza and the West Bank, and the merger of the former Hamas-run government in Gaza employees into the PA's payroll, all of which are files that are expected to take time before they are fully resolved.
It will not be before 6 months as we agreed, but if there is many efforts together, we can make some form of the laws and some internal preparation.
No doubt, this unity government's burdens are heavy and its job is complicated. And in spite of it being officially mandated for a period of 6 months with a main focus on holding general elections, it seems far from being able to meet the deadline. The two reconciled parties have their own internal problems and could prefer to postpone elections. But without the elections, the legal and legislative status will remain inefficient and lacking legitimacy.
The attempt was made seriously to try to renew electoral legitimacy, but if Israel prevents it, then Israel would have aborted the process. Nevertheless, things most likely will continue as they are. Now, the recent agreement that was signed in Gaza also stipulates that the Palestinian Legislative Council, the PLC, would meet. It has not met yet. We'll have to see that if it can meet.
The General Elections Committee said it is ready to hold the elections, and it has come up with technical solutions for residents of Jerusalem to vote in nearby towns under Palestinian control. But the matter remains complicated and challenging. Fatma Abdel Karim, Kuwait TV, Ramallah, Palestine.
Israel's parliament has given initial approval to a law to enable the forced feeding of Palestinian prisoners on hunger strike, drawing defiance from activists who said it would not deter the inmates. Some 120 Palestinians held by Israel began refusing food in April in protest at their detention without trial. Since then, the number has risen closer to 300, with 70 of them hospitalized. The measure, which is opposed by the Israeli Medical Association, is backed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. The legislation will now be submitted to the committee for possible amendments before Parliament votes on it again. For the second time in 2 days, Pakistan's largest and busiest airport was forced to shut down after militants launched a brazen attack on airport security forces. Officials said that at least 2 groups of gunmen tried to enter the facility from different entrances, but it was not immediately clear how many casualties may have resulted. Today's assault came after 10 militants stormed the same airport's cargo area last Sunday, leading to an hours-long siege that left 36 people dead, including the assailants. The Pakistani Taliban claimed responsibility for that assault, saying the attack was in retaliation for the death of former Chief Hakimullah Mahsoud, who was killed in a U.S. drone strike in November in North Waziristan. In Afghanistan, 5 U.S. service members were killed in a possible friendly fire incident in the south of the country. Officials said the 5 were killed overnight along with an Afghan soldier in Zabul province when they requested air support from a B-1 bomber after coming in contact with enemy forces. According to NATO, the troops were conducting a security operation. The deaths brings to 36 the number of NATO soldiers killed so far this year in Afghanistan, with 8 service members killed in June alone. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland met today with Vital Klitschko, the newly elected mayor of Kiev in the Ukrainian capital. Later on at a news conference, Nuland urged Russian President Vladimir Putin to work together with the Ukrainian government on strengthening the porous Ukraine-Russia border. Meanwhile, Ukraine's new president, Petro Poroshenko, ordered the creation of humanitarian corridors for civilians to flee areas of the east hit by conflict between pro-Russian militants and Ukrainian forces. In a statement, the presidency said ministers had been told to establish all necessary conditions for civilians who want to leave, as Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov welcomed Poroshenko's announcement. Finally, moving to the local financial news, in which the 3 main indices of Kuwait Stock Exchange ended the trading session in positive territory. The price index gained 0.49 points to reach 7,253.7 points. The weighted index also gained 0.49 points to close at 489.49 points, while that of the KSX 15 index gained 4.53 points and settled at 1,199.34 points. The share of the Al Mudun International Real Estate Company was the top gainer of the day, while that of the Kuwait Hotels Company was the top decliner. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. That's all the news for now, but you can join us again for the news brief at 11 p.m. Before we end, here's a quick reminder of today's main headlines. His Highness the Emir will patronize and attend the 13th honoring ceremony of the Informatics Award of His Highness the Chief of the National Guard, Sheikh Salim Al-Ali Al-Sabah. The National Assembly grants citizens the right to refute to the Constitutional Court during its ordinary session. Iraq's Prime Minister asks Parliament to declare a state of emergency after militants take control of the country's second city of Mosul. And Pakistan's busiest airport in the city of Karachi comes under a new attack 2 days after a similar incident killed 36 people.